Hello everyone, welcome to the video. So today we are going to compare this bike and this bike. So they are very different. This one is a hybrid bike I got from Decathlon for about £200. And this one is a road bike I got from the Trek website. This one cost me about £1,000. So we are going to see the difference between them and see how much more performance you get from getting a road bike rather than a hybrid bike. So let me show you some of the differences. On the hybrid, we have some suspension on the front, which you don't have on the road bike. This is just a carbon fork. So on the hybrid bike, you can go through some bumps easier. So the gears on these bikes are very different. On the road bike, you have far more choices. You have two cogs at the front. You have a 50 and a 34, which means you can go up hills easier and you can go faster. And on the back, you have an 11 to 32. So the range of gears is much wider. On the hybrid bike, you just have a 36 on the front and then a 36 to 11 on the back. So this one doesn't have a really high gear for like cruising really fast, but it does have a much easier gear for when you're going up hills. So maybe we'll see, this one might be easier to ride up hills. So what else is different? You can see the handlebars are different. This one just has the normal standard handlebars, whereas the road bike you have a few different positions. You can put your hands here, sort of down in the drops, also ride it normally. So there's quite a few different options there. So the tires are also very different. The hybrid bike has these knobbly tires which are good for going off-road a bit more, whereas the road bike has pretty much perfectly smooth tires for sticking to the tarmac. So lastly, the most important difference is the road bike has two bottle cages, whereas this one only has one. So there you go, you can carry more water. Obviously the weight will be different, so that's what we can do now. We're going to weigh it and see how big the difference is. So it reads, I can barely see it, 14.54. Okay, so the hybrid bike is 14.54. Okay, and the road bike is 11.47. So about 3 kilograms difference. Okay, so the route I'm going to do is 100 kilometers. It's around the mountains, so it's got a lot of elevation gain. It's about 100 kilometers and 1,000 meters of elevation gain. I've done it before on this bike and that took me 4 hours and 50 minutes. So on the road bike, I do not know how much faster I'll go, so let's find out. Okay, so in terms of nutrition on this ride, I am going to take water. So we've got two 750 milliliter bottles, so that's 1.5 liters. And then I also have a water bladder here, which I put in my little backpack. So that's another 1.5 liters of water. So overall I've got 3 liters of water. And then in the red bottles, I put a banana, no. In the red bottles, I put some of this sports drink in, which has about 50 grams of carbohydrates in. So I'll put that in 2 of the bottles. And then in my water bladder, I will just have normal water. And then I'll take 2 bananas and then some sweets as well. So hopefully that should be enough food. Let me know what you take on your rides because I'm not very good at nutrition. I always tend to run out of food. So yeah, put those in the comments and let me know. So I would like to get this done in under 4 hours and that would mean I'm doing 25 kilometers an hour, which is a nice round number. So that's my goal anyway. But I'm not sure how long it will take. I've never done this on the road bike, so it should be fun. So it looks like it's going to rain outside, which is good because that means tomorrow morning, hopefully it will be a nice clear day. Last time I did this route, it was horrible, horrible weather. It was like being in Silent Hill. The roads were foggy and it was cold. Now it's about a month later, so it should be better. It should be nice and sunny and I can actually show you how nice these roads are. Okay, that's all for now. Let's get started. It's a lovely morning here in China, starting at about 4:30 a.m. so I can get the sunrise. The first part of the ride is just taking us out the city. This is the beach here. Normally this is absolutely packed with tourists, but in the morning there's no one here and it's absolutely lovely. About 10 kilometers in now and we're just coming across another beach here. This one is also very popular with tourists and stuff. And you can just about see the mountains in the distance. So that's where I'm going to ride to. I'm not going to ride over the mountains because it's a tourist area and you can't ride over them, but I'm just going to ride around it, which is perfectly fine. So let's speed things up a little. These roads are normally absolutely packed, but because it's so early, it's very nice and empty. So yeah, normally I like to ride early in the morning, just so I don't have to deal with all the traffic. Stick around till the end if you want to see how bad the traffic gets in China when I ride back into the city. So this gate here is the reason I need to leave so early. This road shuts to bicycles at 7 AM. Supposedly it's for safety, but I think it's just so they can charge people to come in. So we're about an hour in now. This is the beginning of the coastal road. Very quiet here, very few cars, and it's absolutely beautiful. So the coastal road continues for quite a long time. It must be about 20 kilometers long, and it's very steep in parts, reaching gradients of like 11%, but there's lots of nice fun downhill bits as well. 26 kilometers in and time for a rest, and a chance for me to practice my terrible Chinese. So now that I'm fully rested, it's time to tackle the first of two big hills on this ride. This one is about 2 kilometers long with about 130 meters of elevation gain. Its average gradient is about 6%. So for the uphill, I'm gonna try to keep my heart rate relatively low. I don't want to go out too hard on this because I know I've still got about 70 kilometers to go. So I'm keeping my heart rate less than 170, and now I'm almost at the top. It was a pretty hard climb, but I managed to beat my personal record and beat the time I set on the hybrid bike. So after all that hard work, it's time to sit back and enjoy the downhill.
I've been feeling hopeless till you came around. All this time, you're the only reason I'm not chasing highs. What is love? Lately I've been wondering just what is love? I don't know. No one ever showed me I've been on my own for too long. But if you hold me now, let me into your heart. Maybe I can start to love again.
So we're 37 kilometers in now. If you saw my video about the hybrid bike, you'd remember that the road surface last time was horrible because they were repaving the road. Anyway, all that is now finished and I get to enjoy this beautiful, smooth tarmac, and it is very nice to ride on. I can't believe how different the weather is. Last time it was horrible. It was so cold and foggy and I couldn't see a thing. So I've got a bit of a forced stop here. My seat was slipping down, so I'm just stopping quickly so I can raise it up again. My legs were starting to hurt, and yeah, it was just sliding down a little bit. It was sliding very slowly, so I didn't notice it. So it was a good thing I brought my Allen keys. Let me know in the comments what you guys take on your long rides. So we're about 40 kilometers in and just leaving the touristy roads. So from this point, all the roads are public roads rather than ones you have to pay for, meaning I'm going to have to deal with a lot more cars. Normally the cars here are quite good around cyclists because there's so many mopeds and stuff around, so they do notice you. So we're about to leave the coast and head inland. We've now got a really long stretch of highway for about 5 kilometers. And this bit, I swear, was so much harder than it should have been. So if you look at the top, you can see I'm only doing about 20 kilometers an hour. And there's only a slight gradient, so I would have liked to go much faster here. But I was hit with a massive headwind, and I'm sure this was true, so I looked it up after the ride, and yeah, there was about a 5 meters per second headwind going straight at me. So normally I would have liked to have gone about 30 kilometers an hour on the flat ground. So this app is called My Windsock. You can link it with your Strava, and then it will show you the headwinds and the tailwinds on your entire rides. So it shows your entire route and it's color coded depending on how strong the winds were. So if it's blue, it means you have a tailwind, and if it's red, it means you have a headwind. So if you look up here, this bit is all red. So you can see I have a massive headwind of 4.8 meters per second. So I was right. I wasn't just pretending or being lazy. It was definitely much harder than it should have been.
You started a fire somewhere deep in.
So I'm just about to reach the biggest hill on the ride, and this one has a Chinese name which I can't pronounce. So this one is about 2.5 kilometers long with an average grade of 7.1% and gets to about 20% at some points. So the hill starts off quite easy at 7%, but it's not easy for me. I'm already struggling quite a lot. My RPM is really low because the gears on this bike are not ideal. I wish I had a few more gears at the high end just so I could spin more rather than having to suffer through and stand up and push and grind away. After about 10 minutes it levels out to a more reasonable 5%. At this point I'm fine, I can just sort of spin at about 80 RPM, which is much nicer. My heart rate is getting quite high here, but I don't want to go all out because I know I've still got 50 kilometers to go once I reach the top of this hill. So we're almost at the top, but this is where the hill gets really hard. So we ramp up from about 15% all the way up to about 20, and at this point I am really struggling in the easiest gear and I'm barely getting 40 RPM. So this is just the final push here, about 2 minutes left to the top and then I can coast down. This is definitely the hardest part of the hill and I am so almost done here. My heart rate is way too high, but fortunately it's just about starting to level off back down to about a manageable 10%, and yeah, I'm almost at the top and I am ruined. And yeah, time to enjoy the downhill. So we're immediately into a minus 8% grade, and honestly this is quite scary because it's all blind corners, you don't know what's coming around. So I'm not going to take any silly risks by trying to go too fast, I'm just trying to be safe. So we're out of the main downhill bit now, but it's still quite nice at the moment, a slight downhill grade. And now we're heading towards the highway, just going through a few villages before we get there. Got to navigate a few school buses. Still very much in the countryside. We've got about another 20 kilometers before we get back to the city. So I'm just gonna take this bit nice and slow and enjoy myself. So we're just about to turn onto the highway here. This is actually the metro line as well. I always like getting to this point because it means if I ever fancy giving up, I can just take the metro home. So the highway leads right back into the city. So I've got about another 10 kilometers on the highway, and then it's going to be city traffic for a long way. So I'm just going to skip forward past the highway because there's nothing much really interesting happening here. So I'm just having a nice stop here, just getting some food in, and this is getting ready for the final push through the city. I've got about 30 kilometers to go, and this bit is quite flat, so it should go quite well. So riding through the city is always a horrible mess. There's so many cars, and it's all stop-start traffic, and there's just no chance at all to get any speed up. In the future, I'm definitely going to stick to cycling in the countryside. It's so much more relaxing, there's fewer cars, and it's just much safer. So about 10 kilometers to go, and this guy pulls out in front of me. He looks like a proper, real good cyclist. So I try to keep up with him for a while. So we're coming into the final 5 kilometers or so. At this point, I'm actually feeling really good. I've got loads of energy, so I'm just trying to get home as fast as possible. My heart rate is as high as it's been all ride at about almost 180. When I did this ride on the hybrid bike, I was absolutely done at this point, but on the road bike, I have so much more energy and I feel great. The final 20 or so kilometers in the city really ruined my average speed, so yeah, it wasn't as high as I wanted, but there's not really much I can do about that. I can't control the traffic. So this is the final few hundred meters back to my house. It's a bit of a nasty hill to go up after you've just cycled 100 kilometers, but yeah, I'm gonna try my best to get up this. It's about 7% until you get to the very end where it gets up to about 15. Again, I do wish I had a few more gears just so I didn't have to stand up on some of these hills, like just 1 or 2 more, and I would be able to spin so much easier. So really just using up my last reserves of energy here, just trying to sprint up the hill to the end. Okay, just finished. Total time was 4 hours and 32 minutes, so 24 minutes quicker than last time. Thought I could have done a bit better, but when I got back into the city, it was really so much traffic, so there's not much I can do about that. But well, overall, I put in a solid effort there right at the end. Last 12k, went as fast as I can pretty much. And yeah, overall, nice weather, nice ride. I feel comparatively fresh compared to when I did this on the other bike. So yeah, maybe it wasn't too much faster, but still 24 minutes saved. All right.
Hey guys, so it's the next day now. So I'll just go through some thoughts about the ride. Overall, I thought it went quite well. I ended up shaving about 25 minutes off my old time, but I ended up shaving this time off while putting in less work. So my average heart rate was actually 5 beats per minute slower than it was on my other bike, which does kind of make sense because it's a lighter bike. So it's cool to know you can go faster while also putting in less effort. So like I said, it's the next day now and my legs feel fine, quite fresh. When I got home, I didn't feel too bad. I felt like I could have carried on quite a bit longer actually. So in terms of climbing, the hybrid bike actually had a easier lower gear, if that makes sense. So the ratio is better for climbing hills, and I could actually feel that when I was going up the mountains. So when the gradient got above like 10%, I was standing in the seat because I couldn't really spin anymore. I was grinding away at like 50 or 60, which isn't very good. So yeah, a few more gears on top would be nice. So especially if I were to add a bit of weight to the bike for like bikepacking or something, a few extra gears would be quite helpful at the lower end. So there were 2 big climbs on the route, and I did actually manage to beat my personal records for both of them. I shaved about a minute off each one. Yeah, so it shows that saving 3 kilograms does make you a bit faster, despite not having such a good gear. So after the really big hill, and once I got back down into the city, there was so much traffic and it was just all stop-start, not really much you can do about that, but I feel like I could have really made my average speed way higher if there was just less traffic, but there's not really much I can do about that. So yeah, one more thing. My nutrition, I thought I did quite well this time. I ate lots of food on the way, and at the end, I had loads of energy. In the last 10 kilometers when the road did actually clear out, I put in loads of effort and went quite fast towards the end. I actually got into a bit of a race with this other guy who was riding his bike, so that was quite fun. So just one more thing about the bike. I found that my seat was slipping down, so I'm not sure about that. I was using the torque wrench which came with the bike, and I'm not sure how accurate this is. So I tightened up the seat to the recommended amount, which is 7 Newton meters, and it still kept slipping down, so I just started using my actual Allen keys. So I'm just going to be a bit careful about that. I don't want to over tighten it. That's all really. Overall it was good fun ride, and I'll definitely be doing it again. Let me know what sort of videos you'd like to see in the comments down below. And yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching. I hope you're all well, and I will see you next time.